Tonight, somewhere in your city, a dog is barking at nothing, or at least, that's what you think. You'll roll over and go back to sleep, maybe curse under your breath, maybe wonder why anyone keeps a dog in an apartment. But here's what you don't know. That bark, that annoying, pointless 2 a.m. bark, your entire species survived because of it. Not poetically, not as a metaphor. Literally, biologically, archaeologically, the dog is the reason you're alive right now. Reading this sentence with a working civilization around you. And the strangest part, this relationship almost didn't happen. For thousands of years, these two species, humans and wolves, were enemies, competing for the same prey, living in the same forests, killing each other's young, and then one wolf made a different choice, and the world changed forever. Let's start with what humans actually were, before dogs. Go back 40,000 years. Homo sapiens, us, have been on this planet for about 300,000 years at this point. We're smart. We have language, fire, tools. We're social. We cooperate. We plan. But physically, we are a disaster. No claws, no real fangs. We run slower than almost everything that wants to eat us. Our night vision is pathetic. In complete darkness, we're essentially blind. We don't have fur to survive extreme cold. We can't track a scent the way other predators can. Our hearing is mediocre compared to the animals that hunted us. For 300,000 years, despite our intelligence, we were prey as much as we were predators. We were hunted by lions, leopards, cave bears, hyenas. Every single night when the sun went down, the world became something we could not fully see, full of animals that could. Now look at the wolf. The gray wolf is one of the most perfectly designed predators that evolution has ever produced. A nose that is 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's, hearing sharp enough to detect prey from a mile away. Stamina so incredible, it can run for hours without stopping. Pack intelligence, communication systems that coordinate entire groups in a hunt. Jaws powerful enough to crush bone. In almost every physical category, the wolf is superior to the human, and for most of prehistory, these two animals were in direct competition. Wolves and humans hunted the same prey: deer, elk, mammoth, bison. The same territories, the same food sources. They should have stayed enemies forever. They didn't. Here's how it probably started. Some wolves, not all of them, just a small number, were bolder than the others. Less afraid. Where the rest of the pack stayed far away from human camps, these wolves crept closer. Not to attack, just to eat. Because humans are messy, we leave scraps, carcasses we can't finish, bones with marrow still inside, rotting meat we don't want anymore. For a wolf willing to tolerate the smell of humans, a campsite was basically a free buffet. These bold wolves ate better. They were healthier. They had more pups. And those pups inherited that tolerance for humans. That willingness to come close. Generation after generation, the wolves that could coexist with humans pulled ahead. They were surviving better than the wolves that stayed away. Scientists call this self-domestication. The wolves chose us, not the other way around. And what did the humans do? They noticed that these wolves were useful. They were barking at predators. They were finishing the waste that would have attracted dangerous animals anyway. They were, without even trying, providing a service. So humans stopped driving them away. That was the beginning. Genomic sequencing of ancient bones tells us this separation, the moment wolves began splitting into what would become dogs, started somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago. But the oldest confirmed dog remains with preserved DNA, found in northwest Russia, date to about 10,900 years ago. And ancient dog bones, roughly 15,000 years old, have been found across Europe and Asia. Animals that looked enough like modern dogs that researchers recognized them immediately. At least twice in history, maybe more, wolves became dogs. That fact alone should tell you something. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a fluke. Two completely different populations of wolves in completely different parts of the world independently evolved toward the same outcome, living with humans, because it worked. Now let's talk about what dogs actually gave us. Because most people think about dogs as companions, as pets, as animals that fetch balls and sleep on sofas. That's not what dogs were. Dogs were technology. The first and most critical thing a dog gave early humans was something no tool could replicate, an alarm system that never slept. Think about what the human night actually looked like before dogs. You have a fire, maybe a rough shelter. You're exhausted from a full day of hunting and foraging. You go to sleep, and then what? A leopard can move in total silence. It can close a distance of 30 meters in under 2 seconds. In darkness, you cannot see it, cannot hear it, and will not smell it in time. Your fire might keep it cautious, but it won't stop a determined predator. People died at night, frequently, regularly. The darkness was genuinely dangerous in a way modern humans cannot fully imagine. A dog changes this completely. A dog never fully sleeps. It sleeps in light, restless cycles, always monitoring its environment. Its hearing can detect sounds at frequencies humans can't perceive. Its nose can smell a predator long before that predator is anywhere near the camp. And crucially, it barks. That bark wakes the humans. The humans respond. The predator, now facing an alerted group with fire and weapons, decides to find easier prey. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer communities around the world, groups still living something close to the original human lifestyle, have documented this pattern consistently. The Aboriginal Australians, the Hadza of Tanzania, the Ashe of Paraguay, groups that never had contact with each other all developed the same relationship with dogs. Dogs sleep at the edges of camp. Dogs face outward. Dogs are the first line of warning. Researchers have a term for this, the dog alarm radius, the zone around a human settlement where predators simply don't come because they know something is watching, something that will raise the alarm. For 300,000 years, humans slept in terror of the dark. Dogs gave them the first real, uninterrupted sleep they had ever known. Think about what that means for a species. Rest is not a luxury, it is the foundation of everything. Your immune system repairs itself during sleep. Your brain consolidates memories and learning. Your body recovers from physical exertion. A species that cannot sleep deeply is a species that gets sick more often, thinks less clearly, and dies younger. Dogs didn't just protect humans from predators, they gave humans something that may have been just as important. Real rest, but protection at night was only the beginning. Let's talk about hunting. Before dogs, human hunting was a game of patience, positioning, and luck. You tracked an animal for hours. You got close enough without being detected. You threw a spear or shot an arrow and hoped. If the animal was only wounded, it ran. And a wounded deer or gazelle panicked and running in dense forest or tall grass. You had almost no chance of catching it. You lost the animal. You lost the meat. You went hungry. Dogs changed this equation completely. Suddenly you could pursue a wounded animal. A dog can track a blood trail for miles. A dog can run at speeds a human never could, for distances that would exhaust us. A dog can bring an animal to bay, cornering it, keeping it in place, while the human hunter closes in for the kill. Suddenly, you could flush prey. Dogs moving through tall grass drive animals into the open, toward waiting hunters. Dogs can work in coordination with humans in ways no other animal could. The archaeological evidence is clear. At Shubeika 6, an 11,500-year-old settlement in what is now northeast Jordan, researchers from the University of Copenhagen and University College London analyzed the animal bones found at the site. They discovered something striking. Right at the period when dogs began appearing at the settlement, the quantity of hare and fox bones dramatically increased. Small, fast prey. Animals that are almost impossible to catch without a dog. Before dogs, hunting smaller fast animals with nets or spears produced inconsistent results. After dogs arrived, the evidence shows these prey were being caught in abundance. The researchers concluded that dogs were being used to track and chase this fast prey, possibly driving them into enclosures where humans could finish them. Rock art from a nearby site shows it clearly. Dogs driving gazelle into a trap while human hunters wait. This wasn't a small upgrade. In a world where starvation was the leading cause of death, in a world where winter meant potential extinction for a small hunter-gatherer band, the difference between a successful hunt and a failed one was not a minor advantage. It was everything. Research on modern hunter-gatherer communities confirms this consistently. A human hunter with a trained dog is dramatically more effective than one without. More successful hunts, larger prey. More consistent calories, less starvation between hunts. The groups that had dogs ate better. Their children survived in larger numbers. They spread further across new territories because they could sustain themselves in environments where prey was scarce or difficult. The groups without dogs couldn't compete. And here's the part of this story that most people don't know. It may be the most dramatic paragraph in human history. About 40,000 years ago, modern humans moved into Europe. At that point, Europe was not empty. It was home to Neanderthals, a species that had lived there for hundreds of thousands of years. They knew the terrain, they knew the animals, they knew how to survive. Neanderthals made tools, they had fire, they buried their dead, possibly indicating ritual belief. They were intelligent, capable, adaptable. They had been in Europe far longer than we had, and within about 5,000 years of modern humans arriving, Neanderthals were gone. Scientists have debated this for decades. Climate change, disease, interbreeding, competition for resources. All of these theories have evidence, but in recent years, a new theory has emerged that changes the question entirely. Dr. Pat Shipman, a retired anthropologist from Pennsylvania State University, published a book called The Invaders: How Humans and Their Dogs Drove Neanderthals to Extinction. Her argument, built on physical evidence from archaeological sites across Central and Eastern Europe, is this: modern humans had wolf dogs, Neanderthals did not. At woolly mammoth hunting sites from this period, sites where humans were clearly hunting some of the largest prey animals on Earth, researchers have found the skulls of large canids, animals that show the early signs of domestication, animals that were clearly living alongside these human hunters. No comparable canid remains have ever been found at Neanderthal sites. Neanderthals and modern humans both competed for the same large prey. Both needed the mammoths to survive, but modern humans had an unprecedented advantage. They had allies, animals that could track prey over vast distances, alert hunters to targets, and help manage the kill. Wolf dogs allowed early modern humans to obtain more game more quickly over a wider area than Neanderthals ever could. The result was what biologists call competitive exclusion. When two species compete for the same resources in the same territory, and one has a significant advantage, the other doesn't survive. Not through war, not through genocide, simply through the slow, relentless arithmetic of who eats better, who reproduces more, who survives the winter when prey is scarce. Modern humans, allied with wolf dogs, outhunted and outsurvived the Neanderthals. That is not a small claim. That is the claim that a dog, or rather the willingness to form a partnership with a dog, may have determined which species of human you descended from. You are not a Neanderthal, partly because of a wolf that decided to sit closer to a campfire. Now let's talk about cold, because survival wasn't just about predators and food. In the Pleistocene epoch, winter temperatures in large parts of Europe and Asia regularly dropped to levels that would kill an unprotected human within hours. Fire helped. Animal fur helped, shelters helped, but fire goes out. Fur has limits. Shelters are imperfect. A dog is a living heat source. A medium-sized dog maintains a body temperature of about 38 to 39 degrees Celsius. Press 1 against your body on a freezing night, and you have a source of sustained warmth that doesn't need fuel, doesn't go out in the wind, and adjusts itself automatically. Indigenous cultures across the world, on every continent, independently developed the same practice, sleeping with dogs for warmth. The Australian Aborigines measured the severity of cold nights by how many dogs they needed to survive it. A mild cold night, 1 dog. Colder, 2 dogs. The most brutal, killing cold, a 3-dog night. This phrase is not poetry. It is a literal measurement of survival. How many living heat sources does it take to get through this night without freezing to death? The same practice existed among the Arctic peoples of Siberia, Alaska, and Canada. Sled dogs weren't just transportation, they were heat. On the most extreme nights, hunters on long expeditions brought dogs inside their shelters and slept with them pressed against their bodies. In 2020, a study published in the journal Science examined the genetics of modern sled dog breeds and compared them to DNA from a 9,500-year-old dog found on Zhukov Island, above the Arctic Circle in Siberia. The researchers found that sled dog breeds share a distinct genetic lineage at least 9,500 years old, meaning humans had specifically developed dogs for cold climate work and survival over thousands of years of selective breeding. Being able to move large amounts of material, kills and food across large spaces in such difficult terrain would have been a huge advantage, said lead researcher Shyam Gopalakrishnan of the University of Copenhagen. It may have been instrumental in humans settling the Arctic. Without dogs, the Arctic was impassable. The coldest, most resource-rich territories on Earth, the places where mammoths roamed in vast herds, were inaccessible to unassisted humans. Dogs opened those territories. Here's where this story gets genuinely strange. We've been talking about everything dogs did for humans, but stop and ask yourself the other half of the question. Why did dogs let this happen? Wolves are not domesticated. You cannot truly tame a wolf. You can raise one from birth, socialize it completely, give it every advantage, and it will still remain fundamentally wild, fundamentally dangerous, fundamentally resistant to human control. The wolf's instinct is not aligned with human needs, but a dog is different. Completely, fundamentally different. And here's the science that explains why. In 2019, researchers at the University of Portsmouth published a study in PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, examining the facial muscles of 6 domestic dogs and 4 gray wolves. They found something remarkable. Dogs have a muscle above their eyes that wolves don't have. It's called the levator anguli oculi medialis. This muscle, unique to domestic dogs, allows them to raise their inner eyebrow, creating an expression that human brains interpret as sadness, vulnerability, the look of a child who needs help. Wolves cannot make this face. They physically lack the muscle to do so. How did dogs develop this muscle? Through thousands of years of living with humans, the dogs that could make this expression got more food, more care, more protection. They survived better and had more offspring. Over generations, the trait spread through the entire domestic dog population. Evolution built dogs to be irresistible to us, but it goes deeper than facial muscles. A study published in Science in 2015 by researchers at Asabu University in Japan found something that had never been observed between any two species before. When a dog and its owner gaze into each other's eyes, both the human and the dog experience a surge in oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding, trust, and love. The same hormone that flows between a mother and her newborn child. Wolves and their owners don't experience this. The researchers tested it directly. Wolf-human mutual gazing produced no oxytocin response. It simply didn't trigger the bonding mechanism. But dogs had evolved over thousands of years of living alongside humans to activate the exact same neurochemical pathway that humans use to bond with their own children. Scientists at Harvard described this in a paper that has since become famous in evolutionary biology circles. The title was blunt: Dogs hijack the human bonding pathway. Not metaphorically, neurologically. Dogs literally trigger the same brain chemistry in us that makes a parent incapable of abandoning their child. This is why humans all over the world, across every culture, in every century of recorded history, have kept dogs, not just as tools, but as family. Not because we're being irrational, because dogs evolved specifically to make us feel that way. They needed us as much as we needed them. And so, they became the one thing that would guarantee we could never abandon them. They became family. So here's what this all adds up to. Somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago, a wolf made a choice to come closer instead of running away. That choice, repeated across generations, across thousands of individual animals, set in motion a chain of events that changed the trajectory of an entire species. Dogs gave early humans protection from predators, an alarm radius that allowed our ancestors to sleep without dying. They transformed human hunting from a game of luck into a systematic, efficient operation that guaranteed calories in a world where starvation was the norm. They provided warmth in climates that would have been lethal without them. They opened entire continents and territories to human settlement that would otherwise have remained inaccessible. And according to one of the most compelling theories in modern anthropology, they may have been the deciding factor that allowed Homo sapiens to survive and spread, while every other human species went extinct. And in exchange, dogs evolved the ability to make us love them unconditionally. They grew a muscle specifically to make them look vulnerable. They hijacked our brain chemistry. They made themselves indispensable not just economically, not just practically, but emotionally. It is the most successful partnership in the history of life on Earth. Two species, completely different, should have been enemies, and instead, they built something that neither could have built alone. A relationship so deep that 15,000 years later, you will drive your dog to the vet and spend money you don't have to save its life. A relationship so fundamental that 99% of human cultures across all of recorded history have kept dogs as something more than an animal, as something like family. The deal was struck tens of thousands of years ago, in a dark forest, around a fire, when a wolf decided that the smell of humans was something it could live with. And every dog that has ever looked up at you with those eyes, those evolved, neurologically engineered, impossibly effective eyes, is a direct descendant of that choice. They domesticated themselves. They adapted to fit us. They made themselves necessary, and we never stood a chance. Which, when you think about it, is exactly why we're still here.